evangelist. An evangelist is not a pastor. He's the one that travels around ministering to people and helping people.
Safety first. Use a helmet, even though I have the biggest head in Hollywood. Can I order two Louise and Lamb gyro combos with fries and what do you want, iced tea?
You get your drink.
Oh. Yeah, with fries and small. Do you know why they have a bag of water hanging off the all the umbrellas? They're all over the place. And there's a penny at the bottom. It's because flies stay away from that for some reason. It's like putting ammonia in your front lawn. Dogs will stay off your lawn. Wake up, America. There's little tricks you can do. I've been in the film industry for about 22 years. Sure. In the end of 1996, I was asked to do a pilot down at Burt Reynolds Ranch in Jupiter, Florida. When I got there, I was one of the main characters at a kids show. Nothing ever happened with that, but when I was down there, these people that I work with asked me to come to the office, so I did. And they said, "We got a question for you." I said, "Sure." And they said, "What's up?" And they said, "We want you to be the assistant director." And I said, "Sure." And they said, "Oh, that's great, Joe. We love that about you." And I said, "Well, I just have one question." And they said, "What's that?" I go, "What the frick does an assistant director do?" So they started laughing. They said, "Oh, that's what we love about you." I said, "Nothing's really hard in this world, as long as you're willing to take the time to learn it and do it." Well, that show, there was a girl that worked on it. She was in a local union in Los Angeles, Local 44. And she hired me from where I worked in Santa Monica at a restaurant as a bar manager, bartender. And she said, "You want to come work on this movie, Dante's Peak?" I said, "Sure." So I started working on that in the greens department. That's working with trees and stuff like that. And within 5 or 6 days, James Cameron, who owns Digital Domain, who was my employer, and the Teamsters decided to turn the movie union, which would mean a higher wage. I ended up getting a $59 check for about $14,000 owed to me, and it was after he took out a full-page ad in the LA Times saying, "Unions are the reason that cost of movie tickets are so high," when in fact he had just made $500 million in profit on Titanic. So I was a little upset about that BS. I ended up working on that for about 2.5 months. You need 30 days work to get into the union. I joined. I had no idea I was going to join. And I started working one show after another. You meet people, you work hard, you show up, you shut up, you get a job. One thing turned into the next. 22 years later, I'm working on the #1 show in America. I worked on this show for a while, a number of years on and off. Towards the end, I worked on it pretty consistently. That was a great show with a great group of people, and the actors were pretty awesome. There was a lot of BS in the tabloids about the actors, but it was all fake. It wasn't real. It wasn't truthful. And 22 years later, I'm now working on a series called This Is Us. And a lot of my friends' wives love the show. Some of my friends watch it, and they're like, "Dude, that show makes me cry." And I say stuff like, "Well, maybe you're a such and such." At any rate, that's how I got in. If you want to get in, there's a great school in West LA. It's called the Hollywood CPR program. You can get it that way. You start working non-union. If the show flips, turns union. If it's big enough, you can do that. You can get in that way. But it's persistence, and the people that want to get in eventually get in. Sorry, I was chata-ing the table. That's when you talk a little too much. What do you call a prostitute that talks too much? Horchata. Sorry, I just cracked a little joke on it.
Anyways, what are some? Do you want to tell the people like some of the shows you've worked on and maybe your favorite one?
I've liked a lot of the shows I've worked on, but I worked on Dante's
Shows
Peak.
or movies?
Well, movies I've worked on Dante's Peak, Battleship, T4. I really like that. I like the decorator I work for.
What was that, Terminator 4?
Terminator 4 was Terminator Salvation. And I also, that was a long 7.5-month run in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Thank you. I helped run the second unit. We just had a video interruption with a thing of napkins. Do not be alarmed. It'll be okay. So then Battleship was down at Baton Rouge. I led the movie Up in the Air with George Clooney. That was back in 2006, I think. 2010, I'm not sure. One of those. That was in St. Louis, Detroit, Miami, Vegas, and one other place. We got some lighting effects going on over here. What else did I work on? TV. I've worked on The Profiler. That was 20 years ago. A show called That's Life.
What was that one you worked on for like 5 years?
Castle. This one.
Before that, CSI, right?
I worked on CSI New York. First season, started second season.
How was that?
That was great. It was a lot of fun. You learned a lot of stuff about what they do in the film industry. I worked in the and I also did inserts with the director. So every episode we do a lot of inserts where they do close-ups on shots on the table. You learn a lot, and when you're on the set working with the director, it's almost like going to school for it as well. So people that get into the business and want to do their own little side projects, it's a great opportunity to learn on the job.
Do you have any encounters with any celebrities that you've worked with?
Oh, yeah.
Funny encounters?
Well, one time I was at a rap party, and I asked one of the...
Party?
A rap party. Oh, thank you.
You forgot your helmet.
Yes. I forgot my helmet. I was going to ride a bird in here or one of those scooters and try to break my neck before I started the video and had something to eat, but we couldn't find one that worked because people keep damaging them for some reason. At any rate, knock it off, you friggin' idiot. Stop damaging other people's property. So a wrap party is at the end of the movie when you wrap it up, finish it. Wrap means finish. And then you have a final party for the cast and crew. They do little videos usually that they might do, interviews with everyone, and it's kind of fun, and you drink and eat and, blah, blah, blah. I asked an actor, I said, let me ask you a question. And he's somebody, I'm not going to tell you his name, but I can't remember his freaking name. I don't know actors' names very well. So, but he was a funny guy, and he was a nice guy. So I said to him, let me ask you a question. And he said, what's that? And I go, how come some of you actors have your head so far up your asses you think your doesn't stink? And he just started looking around, and I looked at him, and I said, what are you looking for? And he said, I'm looking for a camera. And I said, what? And he goes, I'm looking for a camera. He goes, you're joking, right? And I went, no, I'm not freaking joking. I'm serious. I go, some of you guys are like your shit don't stink, and some of you guys are really wonderful and awesome. And I get it that you're thinking about your lines and you want to make sure you deliver them properly and you have comedic presence and all that good stuff. But this guy was just cracking up and he goes, I can't believe you're asking me this stuff. And I said, well, that's kind of how I was raised. You're direct. You shoot from the hip. That's what we do on the East Coast, right, folks? So, at any rate, our food's about to get here. If you like this, one more, I met Brad Pitt on the set of Benjamin Buttons, and when he was dressed as the old guy. I helped put together the Russian Hotel, which was at Sony Studios, which is up the street from where we're at now. And Brad had come in, and I said good morning to him, and he just kind of looked at me. I'm sure he was thinking about his lines. And, who else? I don't know. I've met some other actors back east. I hung out one night with Superman, the first one.
What about
Christopher
George
Reeves?
Clooney when you met him in the...
George Clooney was a very personable guy, real nice guy, laid back, talked to people. He met a lot of people in Nebraska. We shot up there. He was in the middle of the street and all this crowd came around him and was shaking his hands and security got nervous. But all right, so one time during the movie Up in the Air, I was worked on that with George Clooney and Jason Bateman. We're getting in an elevator, and prior to getting in the elevator, I had noticed a lot of paparazzi outside. They figured out where we were filming in this old commercial building. We were doing a lot of different offices there. So I just mentioned the three of us were in the elevator. It was small, and I said, hey, just a heads up, you guys, there's a lot of paparazzi outside. So George kind of freaks out a little bit. Sorry, George. And he's like, where? And I went, no, they're outside. And I said, don't worry, when you get in your limousine, you'll be in the building, and when you drive off, they won't know you're leaving. So I wouldn't worry about it. And then we also talked baseball. I think George is a Cincinnati fan, and I'm definitely a Red Sox fan. And I'm not sure about Jason. He might have been a Red Sox fan, but George was definitely Cincinnati Reds. And in fact, one night, somebody invited me to a St. Louis game. I got to go to 4 games in St. Louis when I was there in the new field, because we had a deal with American Airlines and a deal with the Hilton Hotels. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Like the video if you like it. The other thing is this. It's very funny. I want to tell you a quick story before we end, why I got the name Joe at all. It's because one of the drivers I work with in the film industry said every time we talked about different subjects, he's like, dude, you know something about everything. And I said, well, I read a lot and I learn stuff because there's so much fake stuff out there. I don't listen to other people, but I do dig into stuff and read about it. I suggest you do the same. You'll get the truth if you look for it. And that's why they call me Joe It All, short for Know It All. Not that I'm a busybody, but I just tend to read a lot and know a lot about a lot of different subjects. So in a nutshell, if you put something in the comment line to discuss any other topics, let me know. So we can talk about dimethyl sulfoxide or N-acetyl neurominic acid. Those are some nutritional things that you might be interested in, or Tay-Sachs disease or anything along those lines. I know a lot about nutrition, and if you have any questions about that and health, I'd be happy to explain what I know. Getting rid of cancer, things like that. There's a lot of different ways. Probably got them right in your kitchen. Like this, bye-bye, gotta go. I'm gonna eat.